Rightio, Susan, I want to chat to you today about adapting to change because I know you're pretty good at it. Would that be true?
So simply because, well, one, it works for me, especially if it's with technology. I love new tech.
Yeah, keeping up with new tech, I think is one of the hardest things because it seems, particularly at the moment, there's a lot of new tech out there. Like there's a lot of new apps, a lot of new ways we can do things. And so, what we wanted to have a chat today was around how do you adapt to that? How do you know what to go with? How do you know what to try? How do you keep your head above water when there's so many options for you in your business with regards to how do you use technology? So, some of those things, so some ideas, certainly AI, and we've done a podcast on AI and the positive uses for it in your business. But things like authors diversifying out. So a lot of authors now are doing things like membership, Kickstarters, which you've gotten into as well.
Yeah.
So moving away from the traditional model of selling, say through the usual bookstores, now this is about, I think, authors taking ownership and really creating or taking an entrepreneur approach to their business. Let's kind of tease out some of those tech things. You up for that?
I'm up for that. Just what you said, it's got my mind popping with comebacks on that.
Yes, well, you and your squirrels have no no problem coming up with ideas. So for you, because you are one of those kind of unicorns, you're very tech savvy, so you know all those sorts of things, and you also don't mind taking a bit of a risk. And that's one of the things I love about working with you. Definitely, it'll be like, well, what do you think? And it's like, well, and sometimes we'll be like, no, we don't think so. But then other times we go, we won't know until we try. Where do you think that all comes from? What's the approach you take about what kind of, say, new innovation you're going to go with and what you pass up on? What's your thought process there?
I listen to my gut, and I know that that's very unscientific. But I mean, it's helped humans with survival since back in the Stone Age. They listen to their guts, they live. They don't listen to it, they get eaten. I guess in a lot of ways, I use that internal monitor to help say, is this a good idea or is this not? A great example is we have been talking about doing a Kickstarter for over a year, maybe
Yeah.
even 2 years. I knew at the time I was just not ready. I had too many projects, too many irons in the fire going in different directions. And then when we finally did make the decision, we knew that July was a month that they celebrate romance. And it was a great time. Well, when did we decide this? The end of June. And most would say, oh no, not enough time to get it together, not enough time to do it. But I have the type of personality that when I make a decision, I generally act on it, like right then. It's funny, I read that most very successful people, you will find that they would get an idea and that usually within 30 seconds, they already begin acting on that idea. So within that first, basically 30 seconds, they've either made a decision to do it or not do it, but
Yeah.
they've made a decision. If they decide not to do it, they move on to the next one. But when they do make that decision, they follow through on it and they set the wheels in motion. And I recognize that I tend to do that. I'm one of those people that I'll get an idea and it will be like, it's like I can see the whole process from start to finish in that 30 seconds. And I can go through, you have to do this, doesn't make sense. If it's no, it goes that way. If it's yes, it goes this way. Which, if anybody knows how computers work, that's exactly what it is. It's ones and zeros. Yes, it goes this way. No, it goes this way. One, it goes this way. Zero, it goes this way. I guess in a lot of ways, my mind processes it that quickly. and I can see that vision as to how it's going to work out. And that's generally a lot of what I will glance at something and I will immediately know, can I use this? How can I use this? And does it make sense?
Yes. And I think a couple of points in there I would just draw out. One would be that the Kickstarter concept didn't just come to you a month ago.
No.
We had been talking about it, thinking about it for at least 18 months, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I think we often don't pay enough attention to the fact of when something first is introduced to us, we may not be consciously aware that we're actually seeking information about it, but we actually do. And so I would say in the past 18 months, whilst we didn't do a Kickstarter and we weren't consciously seeking out Kickstarter ideas or concepts or how do they work or the systems behind it, but I think that in a subconscious way, we were looking at those things and we were just seeing how other people were doing things and friends and authors, other author friends who had done some. And I think you just kind of take that in, and then when the time is right, it's like it all then just comes together. So I would say that for anyone else out there, when a new concept is given to you, you don't necessarily have to take action straight away. Part of it may be that you sit on it, just be aware that you are actually gathering information on it. And then when the time's right, you then make the decision and go for it. And like you, if it feels right in my gut, if something feels right, then generally I know that it's going to be successful. It's always good to have that feeling.
There's another factor in that is that I knew that 18 months ago, while it was a great idea, I knew what I wanted to do for a Kickstarter, and I didn't have all of the systems in place.
Yes.
And
the technology wasn't there either. Hey,
technology wasn't there. By that was I needed the space to do everything I wanted to do. I knew exactly what I wanted to be able to offer. And it was something I wanted it to be unique. I wanted it to be something that most other authors on Kickstarter have not all offered because it wasn't available, like you said, with the technology. And I wanted to be able to produce it in-house. And to do that, I needed my woman cave, my studio. And we ended up a year ago, a little over a year ago, a year and a half, perfect timing. A year and a half ago, we moved me into a building that needed to be renovated. But when we got that done, then I was able to have my equipment, which is the technology. I'm looking at 3D printers, resin and FDM, sublimation machines. I wanted to be able to do sprayed edged books. I needed all of that equipment. So laser, all of this equipment that I knew I wanted, that I did end up getting, I needed the room to set it up and then set the processes in motion. And I have that now. So because I have that now, I was able to say, when it was time, let's do this. It was like, yes. And these are the specialty items that I wanted to offer to make my Kickstarter stand out above the rest.
Yeah. I would also say another thing to factor in when we're looking at technology and changes and just adapting is what is happening out in the broader community. A thought here is in authorland anyways, a recent trend to have a membership. So it's a monthly recurring income coming through. And in authorland, it's almost been like it's something new. Memberships have been around since day dot, and certainly you think of some of the advertising we've seen from the early 1900s, even back into the 1800s. They were doing memberships back then. So one of the things that I look for when a new tech or a new idea pops up is, has it been successful somewhere else? So if it's not being used in the industry that you're in, but it's used somewhere else, then that tends to mean that it can easily be adapted into, in our case, authorland. And that's definitely what I've been seeing with the memberships, the whole idea around this recurring income. A lot of people have been using Patreon. I'm never quite sure how to say that. There's other great services out there. You've got Ream. You can just set something up simple with PayHip. there's so many options out there, but overall that concept is a proven one. So when I'm looking at something, I don't necessarily just look within what's happening in authorland, but it's also, has that technology worked somewhere else? And what were the pitfalls? What were people saying about things that weren't working or did work? I think it's your daughter who gets a monthly subscription of makeup. Was it makeup or? Yeah. I know one of our friends gets a jewelry subscription box every month, and candles was another big one. So I kind of went and had a look at, well, what were other people doing and what did their boxes look like? So I find it helpful when you are making decisions just to say, okay, what's working outside? How can I make that relevant and unique to my own business within author environment?
If you look at any large corporation that's successful, and I always like to look back to Disney's a great one, the Marvel universe, the DC universe. And the reason why they're so successful, the Star Wars, Star Trek, I mean, any of the ones that kind of pop into your mind, the reason that they are so successful is because they do diversify. They don't just write the books. They don't just do an audiobook. They don't just do even a movie. They have that combination, and then they have the merchandise that goes with it. People buy the t-shirts, people buy the hair barrettes, or they buy the necklaces. This is the things that I look at as an author, is how can I make my worlds more immersive, bring it to life for the people who enjoy them. Authors, you can't just sit down and write a book anymore because times are changing, trends are changing, and people are wanting more. We simply are looking to help find what they really enjoy and what they want. The next time you put on your shirt, if it's got a chicken on the front, then somebody came up with that idea and that concept, and they're building upon that platform, but they're providing something that you enjoy. And I think it all comes down to that. When you get that subscription box each month, it's like you get that excitement. It's almost like one day a month you have Christmas, and it's just for you.
Yes. Yeah.
This is your special reward for working your butt off all month long. You get this one little box that comes in, and it gives you joy. And then the items inside of it continue to give you joy. And that's what the subscription boxes, I think, are, is it's a way to kind of help reward yourself, give you that pat on the back and say, you know what, you deserve this.
And I think it also allows authors to actually diversify outside of just their books. Somebody can actually buy your subscription box, depending on what's in it, but they may not even be in it for your books. It may be that you've created items that go in your subscription box, for example, that are related to the world that you've created, or like your books, the genre, that sort of stuff. They may not even be readers, but they might actually. I encourage the authors that I work with, boxes, to think, which a lot of authors will go with, is like one of my books each month, or it'll be. There are people who may not be big readers, really love the world that you've created, and so they're interested in buying that as opposed to your book. So in a way, bit of a double dip. Yeah, I know, but those dragons, I so love them.
They can have their worry dragons, so that they're like, oh my gosh, the little dragons that are in the boxes. You get this, and then you get to paint them any color, whatever you're feeling like you just want to watch your favorite show, a book, and you just kind of play, surprised at how.
Yes. Yeah, and it's a great example. I mean, you're a great example of actually thinking outside. I just need to give away my books through subscription. It's actually selling a feeling and a world So I know that there are going to be people who potentially may not be, say, dragon, but who are dragon lovers.
Yes.
And that's, so I just encourage all about what to create for a subscription box, if that's one, is to actually go back to your reader. You know, what else are they actually interested in? How can I bring those two things to actually get more money by books, or, you know, every now and then having a book in there, but you could actually create to a wider audience just simply by the world or the interests of.
Again, it's all stuff that makes them feel good and collect and display. And for me, creating chess pieces based on tic-tac-toe games. Who doesn't love, even if you play tic-tac-toe? I found myself against myself to see, you know, which one wins. So there are so many ideas out there. That luggage tag, having a little purse or tote tag, and whenever you're having a bad day, or you're thinking, okay, something bad just happened, but then you can look at this and it's like, be yourself, and it makes you smile.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I know a few authors who have very positive themes in it. That's not writing inspiration, they're writing fiction, but they're very positive. And they actually have made a very good side income by actually doing inspirational type products.
Yes.
Because it ties into their books. It's not directly related to them, but it attracts a very similar audience. Just go and have a think there and use new technology and adapt it. Not only are you adapting the technology to you, but you're also adapting whatever the trend is to yourself. So it's kind of like you're double clever. Definitely. Kickstarters are another great example, and we did a podcast on the beginning stages of your Kickstarter and what's that like, and we'll do some follow-ups on that for how we went in the first Kickstarter and what we learned. We certainly discovered enough in the beginning.
A lot more gray hair.
Yeah.
In a very short amount of time.
Yes. AI, of course, is another really big tech change. And I see that as one which is really the changes there are just I don't know, it just seems like every day there's something new, or they've done an upgrade. ChatGPT looks a bit different, or Claude, or there's just so much going on. It's really hard to keep up. And I remember saying to the mastermind group I run each week, that just take a step back, give it 6 months, and then come back in and start looking at buying things, because I think we're just at that stage where if you were to buy something now, it literally would be like out of date, I would say next month. So we just need to give it time.
My first computer was the Tandy computer from Radio Shack. And we thought we were rocking because it had 4 meg RAM, not gig, meg, 4 meg RAM, and an 85 meg hard drive with a 3.5-inch floppy. Whew, we weren't doing that big one anymore. We had gone from the 5.25 to 3.5. So we were cooking with gas. And then it's like, and we paid a fortune for it. 18 months later, it was like half the price and times.
Yeah.
And now my watch is more powerful than that first computer was.
Yes.
But yeah, that's just, they say before, technology was basically doubling itself about every 18 months.
Yeah.
So basically, whatever you bought today was already antiquated, because in 18 months, something twice as powerful was coming out. And I think that that's basically where AI is right now. Whatever you buy now, unless you get a lifetime deal where you're going to get all of those upgrades as they continue to evolve, then hold off and use the free stuff as much as you can to get familiar with it. And don't be intimidated by it. I mean, it's a tool, just like a computer is. You know, everybody was freaking out when the telephone came around, and God forbid when you had to give up your horse and wagon for this smelly gas-powered car that broke down every mile if you were lucky. So everything is changing, and people tend to resist change.
Mm.
So take it slow, take it as fast as you can handle it. Understand that fighting against it is not going to make any difference. Do not watch the Terminator movies right now, because that would do nothing but load you with fear. But think of all the positive stuff that can be done with it. And there's still a long ways to go, but use it responsibly. Another
Yes.
big, use it responsibly.
Yeah. So there's certainly some big technological changes, not only in like hardware, but also in the software and the apps that we have available to us. Have a think about what can you use in your business to improve. And as you do that, also consider how much time do you have to learn and how much time do you have to maintain, because they're big ones. You need to think about those as well. And is this the right time for you to adopt a change or a new way of doing things? You know, is it the right time to do a membership, to do a Kickstarter, incorporate AI into your business? All of these things, just find out as much as you can, but then I think just consider what it actually takes, not only to learn it, but to maintain it. And
Yeah.
often the maintenance one is where we get caught, because learning something new is kind of exciting, but then, you know, once it's every day and you're just like, oh, yeah. So we really do struggle with that part. But every time you add something to your business, you need to maintain it. And that means hours and time and potentially money. Put that kind of thinking business hat on when you are looking at something. I think that will help you just guide you as to the right decision to make as to whether you should go with it or potentially wait a bit.
And listen to your gut.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, thanks very much for sharing that with us, Susan. As always, you're very, very good at adapting. I will say that.
Well, thank you. I've got a pro to learn from.